Mike check, Mike check. Welcome back to another episode of the Second Half Podcast. I'm your host, Jabari Saunders. We're back with another great conversation headed your way. We're talking to former athletes, executives, creative community leaders on the Second Half Podcast to understand their journey, how they found success in their second half. Without further ado, we got another great guest, Miss Adrianne Ross, former WNBA athlete, played pro ball overseas as well, who we get to dive into her incredible journey because she is doing the thing in fashion and so many other elements that we get to talk about on her journey. She is the founder of Style by 33. I'm excited to have her on this conversation. Miss Adrianne Ross, welcome to the second half.
Yeah, it's so good to be here. I appreciate it. Looking forward to talking and sharing and just seeing what aligns, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, look, let's dive right into it. You have an incredible story. I want to go back, though. Like, where did the journey start for you?
So I'm known for being a stylist and a creative and stuff. So some people, there's two sides of me, but it's all me, you know? And so I think when I first started tapping into myself, it was as an athlete and stuff. And so I think that instilled a lot of confidence. And I'm from a small town in Hobbs, New Mexico, and grew up with a single parent, you know, it's two siblings, one older brother and a younger sister, you know, so just all those elements and dynamic alone kind of like mold you, you know, like I have these small town values. I've always like been a big dreamer and stuff, but because that representation wasn't always just lurking around town, I had to like kind of just really believe and have faith in order to like to make it there, you know. And then to take us back a little further, you know, like I went into college in 2003, so there's no social media that's just like, this is what you can be, you know, this you just making it up. And you kind of go through this journey in life. And you become an entrepreneur, you transition into stuff, and you realize everybody's making it up, you know? So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, so as an athlete, that's where I kind of tapped in, 8 years old. My brother's older than me, 2 years, and he also was a basketball player, so I was following his footsteps. And for me, what I love most about basketball was just like the camaraderie of a team, like having friends, having order, you know, like getting better, feeling like that person believes in you, and just all the little things that's not about, you know, nothing that had to do with ego, just feeling like a purpose and stuff. And then, and I really wasn't sure how good I was, you know, like I was outside hooping and a coach had drove by and he was just like, hey, you know, like, and I was just hooping like at across the street from our apartments where we grew up. So I was just hooping out there solo, and a coach had drove by and he was like, hey, you want to play on a basketball team? And I was like, yeah, let me ask my mom and stuff. I go to a game. She's single parent, so she's working. I get to go to the game, though, and I come back, and she's like, you know, how'd the game go? And I was like, it was good. I had like 30 out of 35 points. And she's like, looks like, you know, if you did
you just dropped a quick 30 on her.
Yeah, she's like, I would still be proud of you if you didn't, you know. And I was in my head like, okay. Like, it was never that big of a deal. And so, I just didn't know what to compare it to, but that was that. And then my brother, he, just to speak a little bit more about him and just growing up behind him, he went to Texas Tech, you know, and he's a Texas Tech Hall of Famer, played for Bobby Knight.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
In high school, won 3 state championships, was always that, like, Michael Jordan mindset, you know, getting up an hour early, never losing a sprint and stuff. And so just following his footsteps, you know, and being like this secret artist that kind of always rebels, you know, and stuff like that. Just following his footsteps was really like a good grounding force, you know, like gave me good guidelines and stuff.
Nice. So he was the one that kind of helped mold you and shape you within the basketball space, correct? Got you. Now let me ask you this, kind of going, was basketball your only sport that you grew up playing, or did you play any other sports to kind of help mold you within that skill set?
I played soccer. That was my first sport. I was super fast.
Really? Okay.
You know, like super fast. A lot of the coaches wish I would have stayed with that. I was also an all-state volleyball player. I was good at track. I set some records in junior high with high jump and the 200. And it was in us, though. Like, it rooted for my grandpa. He was first black quarterback in Hobbs, New Mexico, like arguably the best athlete to come out of there, you know. And, so it's just in us, and it's just in me and stuff. So
nice. Yeah, you got a nice little lineage of athletes, like you said, you know, growing up in a single parent household, but clearly you and your brother, you guys had a certain level of competitive edge and a competitive nature within your household. With that kind of battle, was there a bit of a tug and pull of like, no, he was telling you how to operate and get better and kind of be consistent within basketball?
He led by example a lot. And it's really cool because we were really balanced as a family. Like my mom was level-headed. She's very
Yep.
like with decorum. She had it, like her kids are on point. We go into a restaurant, like we're not picking up a glass. We're not bending over and drinking all, we're having like etiquette and things. And she instilled a lot of those in us. She just took pride in being a mother and working hard and stuff. And so we always took sports as like an opportunity and it's something fun, because when you can't really afford to do things, this is like, you get to work hard. Like if you want to do this, if you want to have friends, if you want to travel, if you want new shoes, like, so it gave us an incentive. And then even my sister, we're all 2 years apart, but we're all pretty much artsy. We're all creative, so we were in there making up dances, playing songs, just being us, how we have to do, you grow up and
you figure it out.
So sports was fun. It was a basketball town. It's arguably, I don't know why anybody argues, but it's the best town in the basketball town in the state historically, like record wise and stuff. So there's those expectations, and even the high school team, like that's our pro. There's in New Mexico, there's no major like professional sports, across the board. So we had we had some players and they were playing collegiate and they were playing professional, like, Jeffrey Taylor, the Vince Taylor. There's a lot of people from that family. So we had it like in proximity and stuff to us.
So clearly in high school, you were figuring it out. You understood that you were a decent player. When was it that you knew that like, oh, basketball, this is my go-to. This is like for me, like I can dominate in this sport.
I didn't never think I couldn't, and I don't mean to sound funny, but it was always like, this is just something I'm good at, and I like to score. This is fun. Like I was, even the other day I was at a TCU alumni. We kind of left that out in the intro, but I'm a proud TCU Horned Frog, and
we were going to get to that. Yep. We're going to get to it. Yep. We're going to get to that.
When I was there the other day, I'll let you have your side, but like when I was there the other day, I was next to someone next to me, and we were watching the coach, and he just has them in order, and his tone and everything, his delivery and stuff. He's just really kind, and it's genuine, but these people are working hard, he ain't whipping nothing. And she was like, do you ever think you could play for a coach that nice? And I said, I never cared about that. Like I just took the coaches as that. If they met me with their ego, I met them with mine. If they're kind, I was kind. Like we're hooping, and so
exactly.
And that's just real, but it's like I like it and I value it. But even there would be times where I would like have a coach at a certain age, and I'd be like, okay, my mentality would automatically shift into like, this isn't going to be my last coach. I need to learn how to deal with coaches. I have to learn this and that. And then you go overseas and you start playing with, it's different. And you're like, oh goodness, I'm glad I had that wiring. But I would say it was in 8th grade when I kind of had like that shift of like, you're a different, and it's because, and when you're around greatness and you see it and stuff like that, it seems very normal. There was a lot of talent in our town, and then with my brother and stuff, this is just what we do. You're not really comparing or anything. And I do remember in 8th grade that there was like a petition trying to get me, or like they went to the state to try to get me to play 8th grade as a varsity as an 8th grader, because I had already been traveling and playing with them, and somebody just had a problem with it. I don't know.
Of course, there's always one.
Haters.
Yep. They
had a problem with it, and it was fine, but they had a problem, and I kind of went to the state, and the state was like, we won't allow her to play varsity, but she can play 9th grade. So as an 8th grader, I played 9th grade basketball, but I averaged like 45, 46 points a game, And so people are starting to come out, people are coming out, and it's just like buzz, buzz, buzz. But you don't know how far that buzz is. It's a small town. So I was a big fish in a small town. I still have everyday life. My friends, like we're not treating me any different. I was always kind of quirky, so being treated different is because I was, I didn't necessarily feel because I was elite. And then I started realizing that in 9th grade, my mom had moved to Midland, Texas for a job, and we were there for 1 year. Then I became the first freshman to play varsity, and moved up. And the coach had came back after a game, and I was telling my mom I got in the car, and he had one of those same situations of like, how'd it go? And I was like, I had 20-something points, and she was like, you don't have to lie. Next thing you know, my coach Kale, she was knocking on the window. She was like, she is exceptionally good, and I started getting recruited. An AAU coach discovered me. Now we're meeting halfway between Lubbock and Hobbs, so I can travel across the country. And so I didn't always have like those privileges where you can, you just can't walk in. Sometimes you got the skin tone privilege, but this time I had the athletic privilege.
Yep.
Like this
Yep.
privilege is connected me to people, to resources and stuff. So that was kind of like how my story, and it just kept unfolding.
Exactly. Now remind me, who'd you play AAU team? Because, obviously coming up, traveling, your face is starting to get out there a bit more. Who were you playing AAU ball with?
So I was playing with the Lubbock Lady Hawks, and
Okay.
this team, they had a handful of Big 12 players, and there's like Alicia Robertson. She played at Texas Tech. Jolie Ayers. We had like Chelsea Welch. It's just a bunch of like hard-nosed West Texas
Yeah.
kids. But then
Yeah.
also too, as we got older, there was the Planette Pearsons, the Gia Perkins, and they were at Texas Tech and stuff. And that's when I really started identifying myself. Like, these are Black women, like I'm not just
Yeah.
connected, like representation wise. I'm like, okay, there goes my sass, like not
Yep.
just the
Yep. Yep.
yes ma'am and people that are playing like my spirit felt so good whenever I, like, the higher the level I got, because you get to
Absolutely.
see like just yourself and others. So Lubbock Lady Hawks, yeah, that was about an hour and a half from my hometown. Fun fact around that is just like Cheryl Swoops is 45 minutes from my hometown in Brownfield. So even just being in proximity, every time you drive, like I'm driving through Cherylstown, I'm driving through
Yep.
Cherylstown,
Yep.
and that
Yep.
sticks with you as a kid, and
Absolutely.
and I'd have fun with someone come to games and like, hey, my eighth grade games, if you score 50 points, if you score 50 points, I'll get you the Cheryl Swoops, anything. And so I went ahead and got 55 so I can get the socks too.
Of course. I should add those to it as well. Yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
No. That's dope. Like, that sets up your tone. That sets up your want to play the game. And not only that, it rewarded you as well. When you were a Parade All-American, Adidas All-American, of course, the McDonald's All-American. Like, you weren't somebody that you were just a basketball player. Like, no, you were a top in your league, in your era. Who else was some of those ones that were playing alongside of you that you got to compete with, not only at that All-American level, but ended up leading into that next class your first year?
So I would say, like, it's hard to mention AAU and Lubbock Lady Hawks without mentioning like Ichiban out of Dallas. That was Tiffany
Oh,
Jackson, RIP to her. But these were people that were
yeah,
super memorable, and they were always a very challenging team to play against. But it just gave, like, walking the gym, I'm like, they give Black excellence, and they
yeah,
treat me so
yeah,
kind. Like, they're like, like I was that one on the team. They're like, like, you balling, you're doing good, and was just super encouraging to me. And I don't get that all the time, So just the impact is like how I would like feel around those teams is like that. The DFW, I always kind of saw it as the mecca of women's basketball. Like, you're going
yeah.
to Dallas, and that's where all the talent, and that's that's a good arguing point for
Yep.
people in the DC area and stuff. But I'm like, I'm women's
Yeah,
basketball, so I'm here
yeah.
for the
You're here for
dialogue and the
everybody.
debates.
Yep, yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
and
As it
so
should.
yeah,
I
but
mean, there's so
yeah,
much
so
talent
like
down there in Dallas, like you said.
there's a lot. There's a lot. And so, like, the first name that popped up was the Tiffany Jackson, but the class that I was
Mhm.
in, like, I think that, um, who was on that list? I'm not that old. I'm not that old, but I might
I'm about to
be.
say, you're not
I'm
that
gonna have to
old.
dig it
You're
back
not that
up.
old.
But it's interesting that you say that, that we speak about these things, because they very much do matter. But even when I was getting recruited and that process started, the things that people were selling were not the things that I was buying. I didn't
Mm,
care what your attendance rate was. I didn't care what your ranking was. I didn't care
yep.
who's already been in the record books. I wanted to be something like to where I really had purpose for this team and stuff.
Yeah.
So even when I had chose TCU, I had nobody around me saying go to TCU. I had already
Yeah, really.
verbally committed to Baylor. I had already, that's where I was gonna. I know
I
it
was
won
going
the
to ask, like,
national
who was in your
championship
top 10? Right. They went in
the next
championships, and it was
year.
like, yeah. So tell
Yeah.
me, who was in your top 5? Clearly, obviously, you gave the verbal to Baylor, but, like, who was
Um.
in your top 5
So I wanted
at
for
that
sure
time?
to go to. I know for sure I wanted to go to school in Texas, and so
Yep.
Baylor was in my, like, was front runner, and
Yep.
honestly, Stu, I've always had like a tie. I've always had a tie with them, and then even when the staff moved to LSU, and I got the opportunity to do what I do off the court now, to work with them, and it just kind of see
Mm-hmm.
it come full circle, was kind
Yeah.
of refreshing. But Baylor, Texas A&M, TCU, Texas Tech, and then oddly Arkansas, even though it was a little further, I just really loved Gary Blair. And the crazy thing
Okay.
is, like, Gary Blair then moved after I committed, then he then moved to Texas A&M. So it could have went like so many different ways. But TCU, I just felt like it was written for me, like it
It
was
was.
written. It was written
It
for sure.
was. Now you got to TCU first day. It's funny. I was just having a conversation with some future athletes, men's and women's team, and I was just talking about the second half. And one of the questions that they asked me was, "What is it like? What was your day-to-day look like as a student athlete? Like, especially stepping in as a freshman. Like, what was that on-campus moment like? What your full day schedule looked like as you were competing at the Division I level?"
So it was a bit like let's see the word, like it was a culture shock for me,
Yeah.
like you're stepping into
You had that culture
independence,
shock, yeah.
you're setting your own alarm, you
Yep.
are like competing at a very high level, everybody's coming in as stars of their team. Like you're going off of your ego is at a peak, my ego is at a peak at the moment, but then also too was also not, now that I look back, I was always so much, like
Yeah.
so much. And especially for TCU, we had less than 8,000 students at the time that I had went, which I loved because I came from a small town. So I loved the family like atmosphere that they sold, and it did held true, it held true. But making that like transition was pretty difficult because just having like it was just difficult. It was a lot to adapt to, like I was like, you get in an order. And so we didn't have social media or anything of that nature and stuff like that. So it's kind of easy to stay in a routine once you get in it. But I
Yep.
do remember like the workouts being hard and the schedules being so full, and going to study hall and sitting down to meet with your academic advisor, and you go to plop down and then you're like, hold on, like my quads, are my legs broke? You mean I got to do this again tomorrow? Like, like it was
Yeah.
just so many things, but I was with it. I loved it.
Loved it every day. I mean, TCU was not a team to knock off. I mean, you guys were Big 12 at the time.
Um,
All the or Pac. Weren't you guys Big 12? I could be wrong.
we be shopping around the conferences. We're now comfortable
That's
in the Big 12,
especially
but
now everybody's moving
yeah,
around. But at one point it was
yeah.
Big 12, then y'all moved to something else. So, but you guys, I remember you guys had a squad, and clearly you were one of the top athletes during your era. Clearly to the point where it deemed you getting a Hall of Fame retired back in 2018 as well.
No, I had some really good coaches, some really great players. They
Yes.
became my sisters. When I came to TCU, they had Sandora Irvin, which is Michael Irvin's niece, and I got the opportunity to play with her. So like I was just actually talking to her last night. We're still
Uh-huh.
sisters, and
Love
I was
that.
kind of saying how Michael Irvin would just be picking up a ball at timeouts and shooting half court shots. This ain't no on your mic, you get a taco for this section. He just walking in, and like I thought
He's-
of it as nothing. It was very normal, and he'd come pat me on my head, like, hey kid and stuff. And I saw it as
yeah.
normal. And I told her I ran into him at a banquet and I was gonna go speak, because I know he would have remembered, like at least from Sandora, played with her. And I said, girl, he was working that room. That man is a superstar. I just let him stay in
Yeah.
his mode. But she was there. I also went with Natasha Lacey, who was seventh point guard in the nation when
I remember.
she came out
Yes.
of high school. So our recruiting class was like top 4 in the nation and stuff. So the fact that I got to play with her, and shout out to her because she's getting her jersey retired in El Paso.
Oh,
She ended
that's
up
awesome.
transferring from
Congrats.
Tech, from TCU,
Yep.
yeah, to go to UTEP. So we're gonna pull up and support her and stuff, and
That's awesome.
in 2 weeks. And so I got to play with some dogs, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say before this past weekend, watching Olivia Miles and that squad, and I have some favorites. I think I can go down that roster, but like that is the best team that I have seen at TCU, and that I really would have to, like, I was thinking my freshman year, I think it was my sophomore maybe, but that was the best team I had played on. Like I've not seen that level of talent. I think our highest ranking was like 13. But seeing this, it was very humbling, but it was also very encouraging. It's so
Yeah.
exciting. And so yeah, to your earlier point, we were in Conference USA, and I think Houston was in there,
Yep.
Marquette, Louisville, St.
So you were the
Louis,
original Conference
the
USA when it
original,
was.
yeah.
Yes. I
So it
love
was
it. No,
pretty
it's
cool.
funny. I pay attention quite often to TCU. I actually had on one of the assistants on the coaching staff, Mignon Moore. She was one of my
Uh-huh.
interns when we were at Nike together. So
So bad.
I keep them in the back of my mind. I pay attention to what they got going on over there, and seeing
Yeah.
Olivia transfer from Notre Dame, and so they got a squad over
They
there.
are,
They're exciting to
and it's
watch.
so good. It's genuine. At first, I was just like, okay, who's all these new people? And I'm just
Yep,
like,
yep.
how can I help y'all keep doing what y'all are doing? And and it's cool.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. It sounds like they allow for you to be and continue to be a family with that team and be plugged in and connected to current as well as those who were still there back when you were playing, which is awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's cool. And it's kind of why I chose it. I was like, I've been here for 20 something years, and this is family. Like, what are, and it feels like that. But I very much respect the mission, get behind it and stuff. But I also serve on boards where it represents, like all the
Nice.
TC letter winners and stuff. And so I just like to have my ear and eyes on things so that I can be a vessel. But I've always come back, like, even when I was overseas for 10 years, I'd come back and do a huge camp in New Mexico, like a benefit and give it back. I
Yeah.
was very tied to philanthropy and what I was doing off the court. So even when I did get inducted into the Hall of Fame, like my most exciting thing, accolades just don't do it for me. I'm very grateful, but I never
Yes.
understand them unless they're attached to purpose. If they're
Mm.
attached to some weird things, and I'm just like, okay, I don't know.
Yep.
It's just like I just can't
Yep.
connect. But when they told me
Exactly.
40% of it is what you've done off the court with the TCU community and in your own community, and I was just like, I felt like that was honorable, and stuff.
It's so much
So
meaningful.
the
Yep.
way I come back is with intention. I bring kids to games. When they played at Texas Tech, I got over 100 kids from my hometown. They almost lost. We're rooting and yelling. They get to come on the court, and I just circle them up after the games, and I tell them like, hey, look, I never came to a game like this until I was actually playing in one. Do not take this for
Yep.
granted and stuff. And so
Mm-hmm.
I very much think that I'm always somewhere with a purpose, So even when I was
Yeah.
hooping, I seen it past. Like I was just like, I've always been tried to be put in a box, but no one's ever succeeded but myself, like only
There
when
you
I
go.
do it. And
Yeah.
um and so
Yeah.
when I get out of that, it's with purpose. It's because it's like I'm not trying to leave and be better or nothing, but I just see I'm trying to bring women's basketball with me. I'm trying to bring a community with me. Like I didn't grow up being able to go to affordable camp, so therefore I can use
Mm-hmm.
my resources to have them. And if I just went and did an Adrianne Ross camp, I wouldn't just go to an Adrianne Ross camp. But if I went and did
Yeah.
one that benefits something else, then I do it, and that's just my spirit. So I was like, okay, I'm called to give back. So I kind of adopt that mentality and I incorporate if I work with a brand, if I work with a person, if I work with a team, I just try to like root myself in like some kind of purpose, and like tap into whatever talent it is that I have. So sometimes whenever we're speaking like strictly about basketball, I'm just like, I've been trained to answer these questions, but
Yes.
I've also been
Yes.
untraining myself to not answer these questions because even like that was asked recently, like how would you like to leave your legacy on and off the court? And I was like, I don't separate the two, you know, like it's all
We still
connected.
in it. Exactly. We still in it.
Yeah.
It's connected to it. So of
Yeah, it's
course.
all
Yeah.
connected and to bigger than me. So
Yep, exactly, exactly.
mhm.
No, I love that. So clearly, you had such a successful time there at TCU, and still continuing to have that success there with TCU. You were fortunate enough to be one of the, if I would like to say, the one percenters, right? You were fortunate enough to get that opportunity to go play at the WNBA and play professionally, right? You go from a student athlete to now I'm a business essentially,
Yeah.
But as you stepped into that lane, tell me what that journey was like, making it to the WNBA and being a part of such a pristine organization as the W.
That actually is a huge blessing. And I think like looking back and reflecting, I can see how it was being tailored and how God was making provisions. But in real time, I was like, I don't understand none of this. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know. If you ask me who's the best and who should go here and there, then I'm like, well, they're not asking you. So, and so you're just having to deal and you don't really know. Like I come from a program that was really good, but we were on the infancy of like
yeah,
breaking through. Like Sandora was our first draft pick, and even though she went number 3, it's not really set up to where it's just like now you need an agent before you go to combine and have all of these things. But I've always been fine with just being out there and figuring it out,
yeah,
but I think like for my transition, there was just like a lot of chatter around like you're going to go first round, you're going to go second round, and I'm just like, okay, cool. Anytime I ever saw myself in the WNBA, which I definitely did, but I always was
Yeah.
like, I cannot wait to dress up on the red carpet. I cannot
Oh,
wait to wear
that's what
this.
you were
Like,
ready for.
I'm
You
gonna
was
go
like,
to
it's
get,
time to
yes,
get,
I'm gonna wear
yeah.
this. Who will I date? Like, what is gonna be my
Uh-huh.
life? Like, I've
Yeah,
always
yeah,
had like this, mindset. And so like when the path was kind of laid out, and I ended up going undrafted, and so that
yep.
was like unexpected, but
Hmm.
it kind of was like, okay, now I have to pivot. What do I do? At the time, my
Yep.
sister was going to school at an HBCU here at Langston University, and I went down there. I'm working out. They let me in. The energy's great. I'm even going into her classes. She told me
Oh,
not to
wow.
be
Oh,
in
you
there.
was a full-blown
Oh, I
student,
was like,
like,
give me all of this. I'm a
finesse the
sponge. But
system.
I was going because I was curious, like, what's it like having a black professor? And
Yep.
you're a journalist
Yeah, yeah.
major. Like, let me go hear some things. Next thing you know, and
Yeah.
I'm in there raising my hand. She was just like, oh, Lord, like, this is not your class. But I was around some really good energy that kind of like made me tap in and grateful. And it's like, if I didn't have that pivot, I wouldn't even have that 1 week of HBCU experience and
Yeah.
energy where I'm
Yeah.
just like working out and seeing the things that are like, bigger and in some ways, just different, necessarily
It's
different. And
different.
so I get the call to come to training camp in San Antonio. And then my whole time
Okay.
I was like, oh, Sandora done put in a word, okay, at this time. And like, but I was just like, but she didn't. She just told me last summer, she was like, girl, they came to me about you. That was all on your own. And I was like, I've held that for like 15 years and I was grateful. But
Yeah.
now I'm like, let me get a little big headed for a second, like,
Listen, might
not
as
big
well
headed, but
pop
like,
it.
I'm like, wow, that was me, and God, most importantly, but
Of
that was my
course.
route. So I went into camp and it was a really good training camp, and this is at the time we ended up winning the Western Conference Championship. And I
Hmm.
was on there with like the vet of all vets, like we had Becky Hammond and Vicki Johnson and Helen Darling, Ruth Riley, Ann Waters. It just
Yeah.
didn't stop. So
You had
when
nothing but
I
stars
came
on that
in,
team.
yeah, like it was so fire. And then even Sophia Young, like just being in the proximity. And since I am like to be a sponge, those huddles were powerful.
I'm sure.
But I was balling like in the first preseason games, like first two preseason games, I was game high, against Houston and against Detroit. And then we played at a neutral site in Detroit and we played at Lubbock, and that was an hour and a half from my town. So over 300 people from New
Uh,
Mexico show up, and they have
all
this
the families,
line
yeah.
like going down. And I'm just like, there's no cameras, there's no one, like no lurking capitalist to be like, hey, here's some value just off the
Yep,
bat
yep.
alone. But
Uh-huh.
one way, and on the flip side, I'm very grateful because then you have that
Yeah.
get insight, and now you get to experience it genuinely, and you just get to have that, and if it went the other way, then that's the way it was meant to go, but this is the way that it went. And so like kind of coming into that experience, coming into a training camp where they really didn't have room for the roster. I think like some of the vets point guards were like late coming back and coming over, even Edwidge Lawson. She was on the team as well. And so I was a point guard, and I made it really hard for them to like, I don't think I was supposed to make the team, but I was like, shouldn't me.
Yep,
Like
yep,
that's what I
yep,
came for, And so
yep.
I ended up making the team and like coming back on and off. And it was just like such a flip flop and journey. But I was
Yeah.
also so present to where even when we're playing like Seattle and at the time Cheryl's there, I'm just like, I'm really on the court. I'm really just sitting over here with Cheryl on the court. Like, okay. Like it was just different, experience.
Uh-huh.
But super grateful, like super grateful,
Yeah.
even having it on my resume going overseas. I was just like, oh, okay, that's going to earn me a couple more
Exactly.
coins per month. And that's
Yep.
going to show the
Exactly.
level of your excellence. And that's going to set the bar too for a standard for being a pro. Now that I've kind of transitioned into being a stylist and entrepreneur, kind of like the bar is set if I didn't have those
Yeah.
experiences and stuff. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that about your experience overseas, because obviously when you're playing in the W at that time and still a little bit now, like you didn't have Unrivaled. You didn't have, Athletes Unlimited to play in these kind of other leagues from the WNBA season. So so many people always, hey, yeah, I can play in the W, but also I know I got to get overseas and go play. Like,
Yeah.
what was your experience from getting on that plane to making overseas? Because I remember mine very clear. I remember
Yeah.
I was scared because I had no friends, no family, nobody to
Mm-hmm.
come pick me up once those wheels took off. Like, what was that experience for you when you got over there?
That's cool. I would actually like to hear more about that because it's just like there's so many commonalities with people that play overseas,
Yep.
And I think not having that has made me appreciate Unrivaled, AU. I appreciate it
Absolutely.
so much. I'm in full support.
Yep.
Even not having NIL, I'm like, yeah, I was on, believe it or not, I was on commercials saying you bet, you lose, telling people not to bet on TV for
Yep.
free. Now it's like you get paid for telling
Now,
people to bet. And I'm just like, okay, you know what? Don't you be no hater, use that as
don't be that.
insight and stuff and see the progress, there's been some progress. So I think it's
We were the stepping
incredible.
stones to get where they are today. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, it's amazing though. It's like you just don't think it's possible. And it shows people that it is, and there's more opportunity and there's so much talent. And then even with that being here, it's still opening up more doors for the people that were talented and couldn't get overseas. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do like that it's spreading across, and open up more opportunities for women's basketball. For me at the time, I was always very different, where I really leaned into overseas, and I've always had a life outside of basketball. I always had friends or be on a stomp team or involved in community work and
Yep.
things of this nature, and even being a fashion major and initially in college, and all these things that were just, it was never only about basketball.
Yeah.
And I was deeply rooted into my journey, with Christ. So I'm bringing my books. I'm having my not Zoom, Skype at the time,
Yeah,
your
that was
Bible
Skype. Those were
studies. And
Skype
now,
days. Yep.
yeah, the Skype days. Get your Skype number, you're set. And
Mm-hmm.
then I was kind of bringing that energy everywhere. So I would meet international groups. I would even do it with my team. I would look up online. I would know where all the shopping, what was in the 10 to 15-minute radius, whether it was shopping, who was playing on other teams. Now
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, hey, all the Americans, we have off this weekend. And it's
Get
kind of like a
together.
running joke, because now I do all these things. But we all have off this weekend. Here's the train tickets and the price from your town,
Yep.
and your town. We can go to Berlin.
We're
We'll
going
all
to
get
meet
there at
up.
this
Yep.
time. I was
Exactly.
that person. So I loved being overseas. I think the initial parts that I learned that were kind of difficult was the language barriers.
Yeah.
My first
Yeah.
year, I was like, this don't look nothing like loving basketball. I was like, this don't
No,
look
you didn't want to be
anything
sitting there with your
like it.
championship trophy on the table. You didn't.
Yes. I said, they sold me some wolf tickets.
That's funny. That's
But
funny.
then when I came, I kind of embraced the culture and stuff. I think in Poland was my first full year, and I was kind of going
Mhm.
back and forth because I was doing broadcasting and stuff in college, and I did an intern for the Mountain Network, and I had a job opportunity, and I was just kind of having to choose between stay and do broadcasting or go overseas. And I
Yeah.
loved everything both, I loved both of them. And I chose to go overseas because if I stayed to broadcast, I'm like, how do I get an apartment? How do I move there? It's just not set up. And
Yep.
but every summer I came back, I was ready to tap into something else. But then it was time to
That's
go
good.
back overseas. It just sparked me right back up. I was always
Yep.
grateful. But I think the hardest part was the language and cultural barriers. And then my rookie season in
Yeah.
Poland, I actually learned Polish. I went to school.
Oh,
Initially, I
okay.
had a translator, but he was translating too much tea. I was like, you're just supposed to tell me if I'm buying flour or sugar.
Yep.
You need to
Yep.
tell me if this is $5 or $50. You need to tell me that the coach said this and that. And he
Mm-hmm.
just wasn't doing that. So I got on the phone with my agent and I asked, if this was within my contract, if he's getting paid. I said, oh, yeah, if it's getting paid, then I'll go to school. There's actually a university here that teaches an English class. So next thing you know it, I'm
Nice.
like, Dzień dobry, jak masz na imię, da, 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 da,
Yep. Yep.
and
You
now I
ran it.
became, and that bought me, got me more opportunities because I was the only American on the team and English speaking person. We had one teammate that spoke some, but I had
Yep.
one teammate that we just translated all the time. And
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
learned a lot. And then that got me more opportunities with Polish teams because then I would translate for all the other Americans. And
Yeah.
the only other person I know that knew more Polish than me was Sharnay Zoll. So shout out
Okay.
to her.
Okay.
She's a coach at
Yeah.
UVA, played some W, and I think
Yeah.
Chicago for a bit too. Good friend of mine.
Yep.
But we was just black and Polish,
That was it. Black
just
and Polish over
speaking.
there. Now, was Poland the
But
only place that you played while you were overseas, or was
um,
was that?
It was my main country like that I played in the most. I played there 4 years and on 5 different teams. And like I mentioned at the
Yep.
beginning, like the cultural barriers, just not seeing representation or being stared at like you're a walking exhibit all the time. But then I would
Mm-hmm.
understand it later down the road because I was like, okay, now I'm staring at other black folks like, what are you doing here? But then I got to the experience. I played in Spain for 2 years. That
Okay.
was a great experience.
Right.
I played in Turkey, had an experience in Turkey, Sweden, and Romania. And then I played in Lebanon and 2 different times. And then I think that wraps up my career. But I was a little
That
here
was
and
it.
there. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But you got to experience so many different cultures. I tell people all the time, like getting the opportunity to go abroad and play abroad, like forget all the scary pieces, but just the opportunity to learn cultures and to see life in a different aspect is such a blessing
Yeah.
to just understand and be in that space because it teaches you so much about yourself and then how you can adapt and learn. And like you said, you were learning languages and meeting all the other athletes because I used to do the same thing. All the
Yeah.
Americans, we were off that. It was a holiday for everybody else. All right, everybody come over to my house, or you know what I mean,
Yeah.
or like
Yeah.
that's what it was about. You had to be a
And
family.
that's cool. I think you raise a good point when you say like you have that time and like some solitude you didn't even ask for, and you really you get to discover like who am I in this moment, like
Yep.
who am I in these quiet hours and stuff. And I think that's whenever I had more depth and I was able to like kind of tap in. I really realized like my values, and I was just like I genuinely love people, and I'm so glad that the climate of the country at the time, like it was very refreshing, just for Americans to come. It was very welcoming and things of that nature. But even too, when I first went to Lebanon, like I called my agent and she's like, hey, we got this opportunity. And I was just like, okay, but don't no other teams want me, like hang
Yeah,
on because
that's
that's
the
like the
only
Middle
one.
East. And I just, I didn't know. And I was just like, it's like a little bit, we've always been taught or seen on the news that, like it has certain, dangers and things of that nature. And
Uh-huh.
then I made a couple of phone calls. I did my research. I talked to people. I called the other Americans and stuff, and like I just heard nothing but good things. And from the moment I
Yep.
landed there, it was like almost made me sad because I'm just like, y'all deserve such a better story. Y'all are such good humans. They treated us super well when we were there, super supportive, and then like everybody has different values, like
Yeah.
cultures have different values and stuff, and they are just like this luxurious. I pay for everything. I'm like, y'all got me in my soft girl era. Like, you sure you don't even want me to pay nothing? And so, but it was just like love, so it was easy to receive whenever it's genuine. It's just like, what am I going
Yeah.
to owe you or something of the sort? But they wanted you to experience their country, and
Yeah.
their lifestyles and stuff. And so I loved Lebanon. The people
Okay.
were hilarious, a lot of like they spoke English everywhere. The weather was
Mm-hmm.
great. And,
Yep.
um, yeah, it was really good. It was good.
That's awesome. What was Lebanon your favorite place you played at? Or let me take that back. Was Lebanon your favorite place to live at? Because I feel like there's two separate kind of ideas in that space. Because there's always a different place from what I know of that you absolutely loved playing. It's different from the
Hmm.
place where you actually live most of the times.
I would have to say, like I was one of those, even on my 10th year, like I would be walking or driving and still being like, I can't believe this is my life. I can't believe I live here. Like this is crazy, like in every country
Yeah.
and stuff. And
Yeah.
so, like super still grateful, and, I wouldn't say that it's definitely got the best people. Like they left like a huge imprint on my heart. I have a lot of good friendships that I've kept with me that we keep in touch, and I'll go back and or they'll come here, and I definitely like value those relationships and things. I can pick up the phone now and make it happen. Like it's just like, and then when you think of the bigger picture and you're not that time, you're not. They tell you now like relationships are important, and then you have all
Mm-hmm.
these people building a network. But like I'm like, this people had purpose in my life. I had changed my prayers a long time ago from aligning me with people, align me with purpose, because if someone's in their purpose, they're not going to play with you as a person.
You
And
know it.
so like with that mentality and like having those, I would say, yeah, I love them. But I would feel like I feel like Poland, I had a lot of support there. Like just
Yeah.
grew a genuine fan base and stuff. And I had a lot of kids that would follow. And that always like gave me more purpose too, because I'm big on kids, like huge, huge,
Yeah.
huge. And I think that will be like, I won't be remembered as a stylist, a creative director, a basketball player and stuff. It'll be like definitely something philanthropic with
Yeah.
kids, but I build everything else intentionally, like for other stylists to stand on. Like here, you got the whole thing. Like I work with interns that want this more than me, but now I got to work harder to make it so you don't have to make the mistakes I made,
Yep.
And so I
Yep.
could kind of grab something from everyone. So Poland like really kept me rooted in my purpose, and it kept me pure because of all the kids. And also too, it was like I can live good because you mean to tell me $1 is three of y'all's, but it's still cheaper than $1.
Exactly.
Like I'm like, okay,
Exactly.
love that, The league was good, it was like it had like a fair amount of like EuroLeague teams and Euro Cup teams, and then even the teams from fifth to eighth, and
Yep.
I always felt like in line with some of the teams from like fifth to eighth, in countries, but then we always finished way higher than that because who made a difference was my little self. I love being the underdog,
Yep.
But I was always like with the good talent and stuff. Like I was like getting people to buy in, and so that's always like kind of my niche. And I would say the one that complemented my life is for the best was Spain. It's like you get
ain't nothing wrong with Spain.
Yeah, and I'm already like a bit of a Blaxican, from New Mexico and things of that nature. So I can get with the lingo, and then like the culture's beautiful, and then shopping, and then I discovered Zara before the States discovered
Before
Zara.
the States got it. Yeah, exactly.
My God, like Zara was it, so
it sure was.
It was good, man. It was good. Like I can't pick any favorites, and I mean that.
I got you. I understand completely. So clearly you had an incredible time being overseas, the culture, the language, playing, the relationships. And also it sounded like during that time you were always still in the mix of things, still creating within your purpose to figure out what life would look like. And ultimately your second half, you spent 10 years playing the game. You had that inflection point, if you will, or that come to Jesus moment, if you will, of like, all right, what's next? Am I going to continue playing? What was that for you that said, all right, you know what? I've done enough here on the court. It's time to kind of step into my second half.
So it was very much unplanned. I finished on my 10th year, which is like a great milestone. But I think I had about 2 to 3 years still in me. I finally got like my role on the team had changed. Like I was like, I can facilitate. I'm going to pick up the guard at half court because I told the coach that's what I'm going to do. Like I found found a niche and stuff. And I had a couple of more years on me, but unfortunately, in 2018, I was back home. I was back home during the off season, and that's like when my life just had a big shift, and it's kind of like spearheaded me into what I'm doing now. A lot of times I say like I'm not politically led, I'm spiritually led, and it's been because of a lot of these experiences and stuff, and being intentional. And even my intention, like playing in the league and things of that nature. Like I don't think I was ever meant to be a star. I think I was meant to see stars, and to be able to see players and be able to get this information, understand the language, And I think like I have a high IQ as far as like watching the game, but it's very different. The way the coach would write down on the board and say, hey, on the press breaker, I want you to go, go down to the block and cut left. My mind automatically would be like, but if I cut right, then that means this, that, and the other. And that would just paint a whole thing, Or if he'd write up a play and I'd be like, okay, I could break it there. I could break it there. I could break it there.
Yep, exactly.
And so my mind was just like this, And so like in 2018, like I had mentioned and stuff, when I was about to come back and stuff, we were home. I was just finished a camp. We just finished it here at TCU. My family had come down. Had come down for the camp as well, and then we were going to just do a family reunion, and it was a lot of alignment, and we got home, and about a week after we had got back home, when I say we, as in my mother, my brother, my sister, and their kids and stuff, just a family, and we got back home to New Mexico, and my mom's foot was like a little bit swollen, and and we were kind of concerned and stuff, but we were like, we did walk the zoo, we have been traveling, we did this stuff, and when she went in to get it checked and everything, she had to go in to get it checked. They were like wanting to make sure there was no blood clots or anything in it. And one of the parts of my journey was 2013. And like you talk about, I'll kind of bring us back here. I kind of, if
Yep.
you're with
I
me,
get
but
it.
like in
Yep.
2012 or 13, I've dealt with adversity all the time. Like I loved overseas and I'm very grateful, and I'm always thinking
Mm-hmm.
like glass half full. But there were times where teams aren't playing, where contracts aren't honored, where
Yep.
like the dynamic of the team doesn't really suit your spirit, and you having to work through things, or it's hard missing like important dates and stuff. Or in this case, in 2012-13, like my mom was diagnosed with stage 2 cancer.
Oh
So like
no.
I had to go with that, convince my coach, to let me come back to the States and stuff like that. And you get to start seeing
Yeah.
people, like not everyone has the kind of heart that you have, like these aren't questions, like this isn't questions. And we ended up beating it and stuff of that nature. But what we had discovered in 2018 after that family trip is that a piece of the cancer had kind of grew, and I'm forgetting some of the medical terms, but it grew and it grew up in her lungs, and she was diagnosed with
Gotcha.
stage 4 cancer.
Oh no. Okay.
So
Okay. So that was
that
a
right away was just
huge.
like,
Yeah.
yeah. And I was her primary caretaker in the 2012-13, like all through my life, my team, my family, like, well, when I say my family, it's just like whoever we're working together with for this, but like our family,
Yep.
like we don't play. Like my sister uprooted her life from Atlanta at the time. My brother, like he had came back, and we kind of built this system around her to beat this cancer and stuff. And unfortunately, she had passed within 7 months into the
Oh
diagnosis.
no. Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry to
so
hear
that
that.
was tough, and it
That
was just
was
like one of
yeah.
those things where it's just like, okay, as soon as the doctor walked in the room, I was like, God, this family is too special. What is this? And this doesn't happen to us. Like
Yep.
this isn't a thing. We're gonna win. We're gonna conquer it and stuff. And even though she's passed, we're still winning, and it's not without her. And so she's added a lot of purpose and intention to my life. But that is whenever I made the decision, even within. Those couple of months, I found out I was being inducted into the TCU Hall of Fame within within the couple of months of her diagnosis, and so even
Yeah.
by the time the banquet had happened, we had I was like, I'm not going to be able to go because I'm just not going to be able to go. I'm going to see. I already drafted up an email. Y'all can put it
Mm-hmm.
out to the following year. TCU had offered me there was an offer for a job opportunity, and my mom was trying to say, hey, go, we got doctors there. I'm like, I'm not leaving you, lady,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
2 weeks before the Hall of Fame, she had some good results come back from the chemo, and they said you can go. And I zoomed down to the nearest Dillard's in Lubbock and found a
Yeah.
black dress that my mom just was adamant about me being dressy, and and
There
that
you go.
side, she was able to come and watch me in that moment. And on the stage, that's whenever I had decided that I was going to retire for
Yeah.
professional basketball, and I was just realizing that time is short, family's important, my values just kind of shifted, but to kind of go through that and still getting through it, very much so. It changed it, it changed how I looked at everything, but it didn't just change it, it made it make sense too, this is why I valued those things, this is what it was preparing me for, this is, and then
Yep.
so yeah, so that's when I retired in 2018, and my brother was playing 13 years abroad as well, and so a lot of those stories overseas, a lot of them aligned with me popping up on him, and
Yep.
going to visit
Yep.
him. He has a daughter
Yep.
that's and mind you, our angel, she's working, and so a lot of this, I'm saying, is not detouring away from that. It's just she's so with us in a special way. And
Yeah.
even his daughter Zoe, one of my 5 nieces and nephews, but she was overseas
Love
her
it.
first 5 years with my brother, and now full circle, she's an eighth grader in the same town playing varsity and scoring 28
Coming through
points
it.
and having college coaches call me as an integer now and all these
Yep.
things, and I'm just she's
Yep.
super humble. Yeah, so our family, we're a group, and my sister's out
Keeping
in
the
California
tradition alive.
living our traditional, yeah, just doing what we could
Yeah.
do, keeping one foot in front of the other. But that transition did kind of come into that, and then in the midst of her battle, we were sitting there and we're doing community events. It was such a global impact that when she had got sick, because you have so many people that have been following my brother's journey, so many people that's been following my journey, so many people that my mom has touched within the community or met through. My sister had also taught abroad in South Korea and Africa and all these things and places. And so whenever we made that announcement, it was just kind of like, you know, we put enough love out to receive more in, and we needed it at that time. And we're doing community events, we're doing camps, we're doing everything just to like, one, bring awareness, but to be here there for her, you know, and let her see it. And that was just like, that was a lot. And you never know. This is an example of you never knowing who's watching you, you know. And like, and these are people, like, you might have a vision for yourself, but it's going to be those people watching you, those unknown people that are going to get you closer to it, whether it's seasonal or just whatever. But I'd had somebody watching me and seeing all the philanthropic work that I did. I'm not a capitalist, so I don't see myself as such. You know, I go and do altruistic. I care about people genuinely, but I also surround myself with people that kind of watch them people or make a profit here that I'm learning, you know. But at the time, it was just really genuine and pure. And someone had reached out and said, "Hey, you know, we would like to like offer you a gift, you know, to push further the narrative. There's a nonprofit or something your family wants to start in New Mexico." And I was just like, well, okay, I don't know. I'll talk to my siblings about it. Kind of seems too good to be true. And I do have this training company that I had started that helped me caretake, you know, that I started it whenever my mother was battling, and I would train 4 to 8 every weekday, you know. Started with every day, 2 clients, 12 clients, up to 90. And I realize I'm OCD for real, and I'm a business for real, because I do Sundays scheduling. I go in here, and it was just really good. And I got to kind of tap in and find my love through beginners basketball. Like, I love the ages of 5 to 8. I can train anybody, but it's just something so pure about teaching them the basics and the language of the game. Like, what's the sideline? What's this? And being able to see them like unfold. And a lot of the kids that I worked with in that time period, we got kids at D1s. We got kids that, you know, I took them to interviews with me. If I'm doing this, they're sitting all here. Like, I just I always kept them close, and I thought that I was doing something for them. And how humble is it to know that they were doing something for me the entire time, you know?
Absolutely.
And so yeah, just like that experience was, I had someone watching and reached out, you know, like towards the tail end, after she had transitioned and I was going to stay there. Had a couple investors like wanted to help me, you know, build a building, and let's find the gym prices. I'm looking at land, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. But like, if I'm having a hard time finding someone to help me rebound consistently twice a week, who am I going to help open this gym, drive this bus, do this? And then I'm having to have logical thoughts, you know. And I left at the time. My brother was coaching at Texas Tech, and I went with him. I went to go support them because they made it to the national championship in Minnesota. It was a great distraction.
I was there.
Yeah, it was such a great distraction. And it was so, you know, and you could just feel my mom, like, she was his biggest fan. And the moment I drove back into town, I was just like, I don't know what it is, but something has changed. And my purpose is here, but I'm supposed to be somewhere else. But I'm like, you don't know where and what or how. I don't have any other options. Like, I have this, you know, and if it does go well, then I'll be able to afford to leave when I want. But that's, you know, I just don't feel it. And kind of like I felt it when I made the decision to go to TCU against everybody else's advice. You know, I was like, I just got to feel it. And then I had someone, that same person that had reached out, was like, well, hey, you know, I actually have this global nonprofit that we are founding, and it's, you know, it's a leg of it. I moved to Fort Worth and back with my old stomping grounds. I'm like, this is amazing. It covers the pillars of like environment, tech, education, and social issues. I can finally I've always wanted to be a philanthropist. Now 2020 comes, and I'm like, okay, well, that kind of sucks, but at least this gives me the opportunity to hop on every webinar that I can, all this stuff. And I'm just learning, because thinking like, damn, I didn't go to school for all of this. I got to get ahead and know everything. I knew I was over-preparing myself. I was prepared from the moment I walked in there. And that's why I like to, and I try to, like, pardon my French, but like, because like you just see so many people like that are good at dialogue and stuff like that, and then it makes it about that, and the work's not getting done. So I like to say, even especially as a creative and stuff, and what I've gone through is like, skip the bullshit, get to the cool shit, you know. Like, skip all that, because I actually have the talent. You know, I actually have the heart, you know, I care, and I have not just ideas, a vision, and have a vision. That means you can put you in a lane, you can delegate, you have the camaraderie of a team, so you can say work together, so you know how to work with egos and all of these things. So like as I'm on my journey and I'm kind of collecting these experiences with intention to like stay humble, like you got to learn these things. You know, a lot of times
Yep.
I'm the first to do some things and stuff, but I'm just trying to make like a collective of experiences, and especially
Yeah.
like knowing that like my mom, you know, like I'm like I gotta honor her legacy. So
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
we kind of like wrap that up, I am working on something like very intentionally right now that is
That's
just
awesome.
got me working hours. But we're coming up on February the 28th.
Yep.
That is like I have an event and it's a fashion show. And I said I wasn't going to put this out till February, but I feel led. But the team's been working on it and it's a fashion show. So Februarys are always tough because that's the month that my mom had actually transitioned. She
Okay.
passed on February the 27th. And so I'm always
Okay.
like, how am I going to get through this? And so I'm like, well,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
Black
Yeah.
History
Yeah.
Month. I'm making Black history. I'm doing
Yep.
this. My company's name is Studio 33. It's kind of like keeping the
Yes.
number, changing the game. I keep the mentality of 33, how I always use my talents and resources to come back and give back to the community. But then
Hmm.
also, too, I'm changing the game. This is how you can work. The game is now creativity, or it's like, hey, it changing it because it's just that cool and it needs a little bit of changing, you know. And then the 33 signify like the logo itself, it's like in the shape of a butterfly, and it signifies
Oh
my mother's
wow.
spirit, you know.
Oh, I
So there's
love
so
that.
much intention. And so
Yeah.
the Black History Month, like leading up into that, and then February 28th is the fashion show. But then coincidentally, well, March 1st is when my company turns 5 years old, you know. So I'm just like,
Wow.
boy, there's been times I've only
Yep.
been hanging on by a thread, but I am using it to sow into this.
There
And
you
so
go.
March 1st is, and it's also too a nod into Women's History Month for March. So it's
Yeah.
just so much good energy and like being in the process. Like I've been working 18 to 22-hour days. Like I
Yeah.
didn't even get the confirmation to do this. It's paint the runway. I've been holding this in my pocket for 3 years, and
Oh, that's
I didn't even
awesome.
get the confirmation. And I mean writing it down, like just being crazy behind people's back. Like I know this can
Yeah.
happen. I know this can happen.
Yep.
I know
You
this
got
is
to
why
be
I'm
believe.
here.
You got to believe
You
yourself.
got
Yep.
to. And every project that I've done has been behind, like grateful, 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 and they will stay behind, you know. They will stay behind. We're in this
Exactly.
together. But I've done like the media day for TCU women's basketball, you know, and it won a national marketing media award. And even when I did it, I just did it in a like I got the idea from what I wanted to do when I was in school, when we were having life skills week, and y'all got Mary Kay in there telling me what shades of makeup to wear, and y'all don't got none that really match.
Nothing to look
And
like
I
you.
and I love me some Mary Kay and Avon, but baby, we need
Yeah.
representation, you know, because y'all
Exactly.
just got me in the news looking crazy, you know. And so
Yep.
I
Yep.
was like, well, I can have a media day, take the experiences that I've been learning. I took my leap of faith from that nonprofit as well, and kind of and so that's how I kind of got into this. Like all that information that I was getting to learn to go put into someone else's company, I realized
Hmm.
I can put that in my own, because this is first generational wealth, and that's what everybody is literally saying. Like, yeah, you know. And so it's kind of how I got there. And then TCU was the first ones to give me an opportunity to kind of exercise this, because at the time I was still in shape. So I was practicing with them 3 days a week, this, that, and the other. So it was
Nice. There you
nothing for
go.
them to
Yep.
tell them like, hey, I have an idea. Excuse me. But
Oh,
so
yeah.
when I did the media day with them, there's like a lot of intention into it, as far as like and I'm a big thrifter. Like before I'd even started styling, I wanted to do just on the side thrifting and resell, upcycling, you know, and things of that
Yep.
nature. And I was going to call it Papa's Closet, because I always went to my
Okay.
Papa, which is my grandpa I spoke of earlier. I always went to his closet and took his pieces. I still wear his
Yep.
overalls, his, you know,
Oh
his like
wow.
Jabot
Yep.
jeans. I style them. They're on so many sets that people don't know, but that's just like my nod to honor him. You know, like I had him,
Yeah.
Tasha
Yeah.
Cloud had it in some things. I gave
Yeah.
the Brian Howard, I styled within Atlanta. Like I always put his pieces on
Wow.
it, because that was my initial vision, but it was always bigger. And I was going to give 33% of whatever I made from that to the Black community. And then
I
like it
love
kind
it.
of just evolved, and it was more than that. And so when I did the project with TCU, and it kind of helped me like form my business and stuff like that. And then I even created questionnaires of like, what's your favorite, what's your pronouns, what's your favorite
Yep.
occasion to get dressed for? Don't be shy if it's the club. Choose 5 styles that best represent your personal style. Just trying to make it hip, you know.
Yeah.
And
Make
we
it
be needing it
fun.
at TCU. I don't care. We be needing it. I'm safe. I get it. But I'm just like, we are got to push it a little bit. template.
You
Okay.
got
We do
to
not
just
want
a
to be
little
no
bit. Yep.
template. And
Yep.
so, we're kind of like pushing that, and then like choose 5 styles that best represent your personal style. And this is all with intention for them to discover themselves. Like I'm
Yeah.
highly aware of what's coming with it with NIL. I'm like, you have to be your authentic self and put that out there, and I'm going to help you. Then you're going to connect to the brands that are for you. Everybody knows who TCU is, so this is an opportunity to. And this is content that's going on the posters, on the buses, on the benches, on the tickets, on the internet. And so as like I kind of let them fill that out, and also to give me an Instagram page that that motivate inspires you to be a good person. And then
Exactly.
the funny part is like I was even telling them to tell me something they would not wear, and they was frying me. Like I'm like, this is stuff that I have on right now. Like what's the problem
And
with Crocs?
they're
What's
looking
wrong
at
with
you
the
all up and down
capris?
like, I wouldn't wear that, or
Yeah.
that.
Okay. So you
Yeah.
don't want me to work with you, huh? No, but it
Right.
was cool. And so I was able to like use that gift for styling because I really do have it. And it's so incredible anytime I can get in that element, and like whether it be thrifting or something, like I can take something and like I'm big on like taking something old and showing you new ways to wear it, trying to
Yeah.
rid the comparison, because even I thought that I could never be a stylist or this, that, and the other, because I didn't have all that, like I would always say that, like I thought I needed all that to be all of that. And I'm like, the hell you do, you just need yourself. You
Because
just
you're
need to
doing it.
believe.
You're doing
So
it.
I'm like I intentionally try to like keep it like, hey, I pulled this from my, sister's closet when I was here. Can I use
Yeah.
this for a photo shoot? And now they get to see their stuff that they wouldn't even imagine wearing, like printed or in ads and
Yeah.
stuff. So that project went really well. I hired like a team of so I do like full production, but we'd hired a team that like looked cool. Like you come to my school and
Mm-hmm.
you look cool as hell. Okay. Yes, you could wear your heels, guy, like all of that. I don't care. Like you can just whatever, just come and be yourself. We need individuals,
Yeah.
because that's what
Yep.
we're styling. And they came in like the wardrobe assistants, the photographers, the videographers, just everybody. And at first it was very stressful because you don't know, you're making it up, and you're having difficulties here, or you're having to learn here, or you need a budget and things of that nature. And it ended up being beautiful. Winning an award, the girls loved it. If France, I put them in a beret, like this person, I put
Yeah.
them in this, like there's just a little something, and it felt very personable. And even like finding the set locations, and then the next thing you know it, LSU sees it, and I
Yep.
be knowing it. I can have 8 likes on a post, and if I could see one, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm glad
I
that
can
one saw me.
I was just having this conversation. It's like everyone, they post and they're like, oh, I don't have enough likes. I don't have enough likes. And it's like, stop worrying about the amount and the number of likes that you have. If the right person likes it,
Mm-hmm.
that right person could provide you with dividends and
Yeah.
opportunities and resources far beyond needing more than 10 likes. And I tell people that all the time. They're like, oh, well, they're getting, $1 for every like type thing. It's like, oh, great. They got 10,000 likes. Cool. That's
Mm-hmm.
totally fine. But if I only have 8 over here, but that one person comes to me and says, hey, we want to do a brand partnership deal. We're going to give you $100,000 to do this brand partnership deal. You can keep those $10,000 for
Yeah.
those 10,000 likes. I'm over here with this 100,000 for these 8 likes. So I always say it's relevant to put the content out there because you never
Yeah.
know who is going to see it. Just like you just referenced, like
Mm-hmm.
that opportunity there with TCU, working with them, and what I was hearing was just pulling in those elements and the culture of how you grew up, instilling it and putting into the work and the flair and creating your studio, to then therefore now LSU picks it up. And it
Yeah.
almost sounds like it's a full circle moment that I definitely want you to continue on, because if I recall, that same coach and those coaching staff was recruiting you at one point in time.
Yep. And they were in my little town, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
always, yeah, it was really cool, and it is full circle. And also too, I love the intention that you're like-minded in that regard, as far as like not needing a lot of likes. And don't get
yeah.
it twisted, like, I used to think like clout is not currency, but then again it is if you're getting paid for the
It
likes. So
is.
I mind my business, but
Yeah,
like for me,
yeah,
it's not the currency that moves me yet. But let's just say if I had a social media manager and was just like, content is easy. A lot of stuff is easy. And if you want to run that, cool. But when you set that kind of intention around like your podcast, it makes sense why we would align, or why it's so like tailored and sharp and stuff. So shout out to you for that intention, and just like even knowing
No,
that, you know, because we all
growing.
need each other. There's influencers and everybody's so necessary. Like just
Yep.
support. And one thing I know for sure, don't get me, we're not going to start another show about gatekeepers, but cut it out. You know, like people
You know
got to
how it
cut it
is.
out. There's like so much room out there. And it's not even just that it's room, it's necessary to make it. You know, like
Yeah,
my work is my activism. Like you're healing somebody, you're helping
exactly.
somebody when you share the space. And there are people, and I was just like, you know, that's one thing I value is knowing what it's like to play on a team, because some
Yep.
haven't, and it shows. And it's just disappointing to me, because you could gatekeep me, but you're gonna have to take that up with the good Lord, because I
Exactly.
don't even understand how. Like I don't. I got an energy where I'm just like, I pivot, I retreat. You know, I find other ways. Like you're just never
Yeah,
out of options, and I'm not doing
yeah,
it for myself. And like if I stop, it stops a lot of people behind me, and that's this disappointing things. Like I have young girls in New Mexico, you know, people that are like that could help their mental health, and even not just the young girls. Like that's where my heart is
yeah,
rooted, into like my community and like the youth. But even as a former athlete, like I've been very blessed to like always have like this duo, or you know, just like these talents, you know. And I still go through my struggles, and I still like, I'm very human with it. But for me to like see players such as one of Chicago's finest, like even Cappie Pondexter, like love her to death, you
my
know.
girl,
And it's just like
absolutely.
the most talented, like, you know, and nudged me at the beginning, was just speaking life into it, like you got. And I was like, yeah, I didn't even know what a style and image consulting company was until I saw you doing this and carrying it, and your fits and everything. I'm so inspired, you know. But when you're transitioning and things of that nature, and you don't know what to do, you're going to need that support. You're going to need,
Yep,
you know, it takes nothing to tell someone good job, or hey,
yep.
you know, or something, you know,
Let me
or just
pour into
something.
you for just a second. Here's something that I saw. Here's something that you can be inspired by. Like you need that. You
Yeah.
need a support system. You need people from far away that may not even know you, but just like, hey, Adrian,
Yeah.
you doing it. You killing it. Like keep going. I love what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
need that just to keep you, you know, the energy going. And you never know what
Hmm.
that can do to
And it goes
inspire
a long
you.
way.
It sure
Yeah.
does. It
It
sure
goes a
does.
long way. So I'd be like, I used to be like all humble, like, oh no, you got it. And I'm like, thank you, receive. Thank you.
Yep,
Like you
yep,
receive.
exactly. Exactly.
So, I
So
mean, we're
let's
all
let
out here though, you know, and people change. Like there's been times where I've had to circle back around and like check my own ego, you know, like I was
yeah,
just like, dang, like they're weird. And then I have to go back, and I'm
yeah,
like, no, I was being weird because I was having a little bit of anxiety. So I wasn't speaking. I usually would have spoke, you know, or done this, or
yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff. Or like there'd be times like I have to pray like an energy off of me. Like if I'll see something and I'm just like wanting to support. And I mean, and it can be rightfully so. But when you're called to do something bigger, you got to be a bigger person. You got to see past so many things. Like I think this is real, but like I one time I had, you know, an elder not hang up the phone, and I'm over here working like a lurking, like we're working for him, you know, working hard.
mm-hmm.
And by the, just out of respect. And
Yep,
I was like, you know, but I had to say no this one time, you know, I had to say no, because it wasn't my yes to give, you know, like
yep,
I got the no, so I had to give the no. I'm just a
yep,
messenger.
yep. It's just
They
yep.
didn't hang up that phone and was going to town on me.
Yeah, yeah,
And I was like, I had to pull over. I had to cry. I couldn't believe it. What? You want to say something bad about me? Oh my God. Like, you know, like I was so sensitive. And I had to be like, what do I do? Because like, is it
yeah,
true? Like, you know, did I not do this? Did I do something wrong or right? And
yeah.
it took me like some days to get that off of me. I was like overthinking. And then I finally sat up and I was like, hell no. Next time she calls me back, like
Had a conversation.
my purpose and where I'm going. This I got to bring you with me. I'm the vessel, you know,
Yeah,
like not everyone. And I said, so the next time we get on the phone, she's gonna know that she's talking to a grown woman, you know. And before I was like, yes, 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 ma'am, yes, ma'am. But now I'm
mm-hmm.
still like, yes, ma'am, but no, that's not how that works. That's
Yep.
no, you know, just because you have to advocate for yourself. And I even say that to young girls, like,
Yep.
hey, trust your spirit and be respectful, but like, you have to advocate for yourself. And
Yep.
because that
Absolutely.
kind of energy will hold it back. And if that would have kept me down, we wouldn't been able to come. I left, this is the first time I mentioned it and it's just fine, but like
Yeah.
we've done so much work since then because I'm seeing the
Yeah.
bigger picture and I fought through that and it made me stronger and it helped me like see just a demographic of like, no, we are really all in this together. Like there is no age when it comes to like just doing the right thing and working together.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, let me ask you this. I know we're coming up on time, but you've been able to work with clearly TCU, LSU. You've worked with Angel Reese, another Chicago superstar here in the city. You spoke of Cappy Pondex and how she influenced you. Like, tell me about what some of those experiences that obviously led to you even working with brands like Play Society, with Love and Basketball, and the work that they did with that and shooting with some of the best photographers in the world. Like, tell me about how that kind of came about.
I'm still like processing that, like
Yeah.
I really am processing it because all of them women deserve flowers, and it's just like, and it's cool because
Y'all
everyone that
killed
I've
that, by the
worked
way.
with, huh?
You
Like
have
they
killed
like,
everything. Yes.
oh, thank you, because it's just cool for me because I just feel like I'm in my own lane and I'm aligned with like these great, great women. And when they come, it's just like it's so humbling because I'm just tying shoes and using my gift to put things together. And I want you to, I mean, it's really more, but the way that I view it, I'm just like, I'm not trying to keep up with where they're going. I love that I
Yeah.
get to be a vessel in that moment and I'm like, and love to watch them grow. Love when I get
Yeah.
to style something and see it like just where it goes and stuff. Like even when we shot with this campaign specifically, I was just like, okay, I'm heading to New York. It's this flying down on my birthday. They don't even know but this is how I would pray to spend it. Like it's a
Yep.
dream. And just left from New Mexico, watching my niece's first varsity game and stuff. Just super. That's all I wanted for my birthday was for it to be genuine. I kind of just showed
Yeah.
up. At this time, I've established a relationship with Tasha and Izzy. They're like my sisters, like I love them
Yes.
down,
Big fans of them. Big fans
and
of
it
them.
just happens. So when you're able to be present with these people and just understand like we're all in our lanes and we're just like everything that I talked about, that's what that set had felt like. And then
Yeah.
you open up the app and you're like, wait, that's on Warner Brother, that's on Ebony Magazine. Who tagged
It
me? Like
was
I'm like, this is
everywhere.
cool how it works, but I'm fine. I love being in a place where it's like I can be here with my feet on the ground, doing my
Yeah.
everyday stuff, figuring it out, and let my work be there. For so long, I was trying to connect with that, and it was connecting to people that only care about that. So it's just like I really have enjoyed like working with such high level creatives and just goddesses like angels in another stratosphere and all of them and stuff, but they're like incredible. And then when I had the opportunity to work with them at LSU and redo that
Mm-hmm.
project and stuff, and it was so dope, and I was super happy to align with Flage specifically because I was just like, she's it. I've watched her in high school. She's an athlete, but she's an artist.
Yes.
And these are my people, athletes and artists.
Yep.
I'm an artist. Like this would be cool. And then so when
Yeah.
LSU came, when the opportunity for LSU came on my board, I was just like, look at that alignment. And then I was just like, okay, I'm focused on Flage because and I have all the looks laid out and stuff. And my creative process is insane, but I had the look kind of laid out on the floor and I was just like, and I had the names tags to all the roster and things of that nature. I'd already flown out there and did the set locations. Like, I don't think people know how much I do aside from like just styling, but like I'm a full scope, like creative, and even the
Yeah.
storytelling and things. And I just take every opportunity to learn. And then when I get the opportunity to mass produce, like I will February 28th, that's when it's lit. But
Yep.
like when I
Yep.
went there at the time, I was just, my mind was just on Flage because I was just like, I've manifested this alignment. And I learned something too, because when I had her look there, I had all the other players' looks. And my manager was calling me at the time, like, where are we at on looks? Because we have a time frame. I was like, we got 4 out of 12. We got, I was like, we're back at 8. I was like, I got a 10. And she was like, this is good. This is good. I get people telling me to eat, people telling me to
Mm-hmm.
this. And mind you, I'm not
Yep.
just working on this project. I'm signing with a global partnership with Adidas within 3 days. I'm also working with Paul Quinn because pro bono because I want to do an HBCU, and then it's Dallas is where I'm rooted. They need to have access to me as well. I want to bridge the gap. I'm doing everything that I can, and so I said, she called me back and she was like, okay, are you done with the looks? I said, we're back down to 2. She's like, how'd that happen? I was just like, because Flage's just set the bar. If everybody else's is not like Flage's and as that good, and I just treat them as that, then what am I doing this for? This isn't no favoritism and things of that nature. So I love that she kind of set that bar and I saw her light. But when I came, I heard about Angel and they're like, that's the one, like, cause she was off maybe the year before or something. And I hadn't really only been tapped in. I'd just been in my iPad, and grinding. And grinding. And so when I met her, I was just like, I like her. She's so genuine. And like, she just keeps getting better and better and better. But you feel her star power. Like, I've never had so many hands helping me tie one shoe just because it's her. I was like, okay, well, we got to start some new rules. I need a 3-foot radius around my talent from here on out. I got to be able to walk around. You get to see like the impact that she has. But even in those moments, just to close it out, like with LSU, like I did my best. Like when I go on these when I'm out and about and I'm networking with people, I'm very intentional with trying to share these opportunities with. And so it's so cool because I have met people. So even Amadi Brooks, she's a stylist. I invited her in. She worked with Asia and things. I invited her to be on set as a wardrobe stylist because you're in the space. Donnie, she's a makeup artist and she's already worked with a lot of players and people like that in LA. I brought her in. Like I was like the makeup artist out of Atlanta. Like I was just trying to share, and I was able to, and we did it together. And and Angel she was a star, and she's just a star. I don't know what to say. Like I was just in there watching. I was like, this is another level confidence, like it's another level confidence. And
it pulls everybody else around you. And I love the fact that you simply did that alongside your peers and people who are killing it and grinding and growing. And you're able to do it together because you need to have your community. You need to have your collective of people who think like you and speak and walk and are on the same page as you to be able to keep elevating and growing and grinding.
God is good. He's
good. Absolutely. So let me ask you this, and I don't want to take up too much more time, but you've clearly been in your lane, in your passion, in your purpose, celebrating 5 years. You have an event that's coming up here on the 28th. What would you tell your younger self, your 18-year-old self, if you could go back and instill wisdom into your 18-year-old self or what you're doing now? What would it be that you would share with yourself?
I would tell myself to do the same thing, like keep loving people, keep pushing the envelope, like keep believing in yourself. I was always trying to break out of a box or stand out, but not to be loud, but just to be heard, and just to feel like I was being seen. And I would tell myself to keep doing that, but with confidence, unapologetically. Like I would catch myself, and even too, just kind of toning it down, because I have no problem toning it down, but it's just like, then they tone down, make people raise up to that, So I definitely am grateful for the people that dealt with me at 18 and stuff, because I was kind of rebellious, like I'm just like I'm very direct, and I didn't understand how direct I was. And hard conversations are easy. It's my language. I'm deep. I like it there, but not everyone is, and at the time, especially when you go through like a life experience of losing a mother and things of that nature, like you have to keep in mind, not everyone has like that, has to move in the world that way, and that's a beautiful thing, so at 18, I just wasn't so aware, and so I would love to be just like have that freedom, but just be more aware, because I didn't realize like I wasn't just a people person. Like I'm like my people are my purpose, and so just to do things with confidence, but also to like just set more intention like in those relationships and in my language and stuff. But I don't think I'd have changed too much, to be honest, Jay. Like I'm like I got
like
here,
I'm in it. This is where I'm at.
Like
I love it.
Yeah, I wouldn't change much.
I love it. Well, look, Adrianne, you have an incredible story. You have done so much, and your journey, not only from what you've done on court, but how we're seeing you even transition in such a phenomenal space. I mean, you've done some incredible work and still inspiring others. So one, thank you for sharing that here on the Second Half Podcast. Where can people kind of keep up with you and what you got going on next? Because I'm excited. You're celebrating your 5 years this year. I as well at the Second Half. We're celebrating our 5th year, February 8th on my birthday. So, it's just that energy of going and grinding. So I love it.
That's incredibly awesome. I love that we're sharing like those 5th year anniversaries. It's so huge.
Those milestones.
I'm big on fives and stuff. Like even my mom passed at 55 and all these, like it's just been coming to me. But
yes.
Yeah, so that's really cool to hear. And then you can keep up with me on social media. I might pop out sometimes, get on a roll, and then if not, I just move how I moved. But my social media is just Adrianne Ross. That's ADRIANNEROSS. And then my business page is at Style by Studio 33. And other than that, just take care of yourselves. You don't got to keep up with me, but just show love when you do, and know that it's mutual. Yeah.
Yes. No, one, again, we appreciate you sharing your story. For all those, make sure you hit that like, follow, and subscribe. Be sure to tap in with Adrianne's social media pages to keep up with what she's got going on, because she is going to be a star in this space. I hope to see you during WNBA All-Star also.
Yeah, we're
so
locked in now.
We'll definitely,
this. I really appreciate this. That's great.
Absolutely. Well, Adrianne, thank you again. All those to the Second Half, thank you for tuning in. We out. Peace.